Good morning, everyone. This is Lisa Grennan, Family Program Manager with MWR. We are so excited to present Protecting Children on the Internet today and want to welcome and thank Detective Sergeant Gerald Yott with the Michigan State Police for presenting today. Detective Yott has several years of training experience in conducting cyber investigations, and he is part of the National Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Welcome, Gerald, and take it away.
You. I appreciate Lisa and Kate setting this up, lunch and learn event for us to share some information with you guys. This is kind of a 10,000 foot view of just internet safety in general, that maybe there's some takeaways that parents and caregivers will glean some information, maybe turn you onto some new websites and some information that maybe you weren't aware of, in trying to address this overlying issue that every parent has with raising a child in this digital age. A little bit about me: I'm in my 28th year of law enforcement. I worked a couple years in township agencies over in the Genesee County area where I grew up. I've been in the state police for almost 26 years now, and the last 6 years as a team leader for a regional cyber crimes task force. On the line with us also today is our outreach coordinator, Miss Amanda Lehman. She'll be serving as a moderator in the chat. If you do have a question, by all means, I don't mind if you interrupt me or you want to unmute yourself or however that's going to happen. But we'd probably say we'd prefer that the chat would be the format that questions can be inserted. Miss Lehman has most of my talking points charted out. It might be something that comes up in a later slide, and she might just have you put a pin in that until I can address it at a later time. And maybe that question would get answered. At the end of the presentation, all of my information for my name, email, and phone number will be at the very last slide, and I will take questions at that time too. I'll definitely take any questions from anyone offline at a later time. So having said that, I just kind of want to jump into it. That's a little bit about my intro, about my career and where we're at. We are grant funded through the Department of Justice, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. My task force is in Michigan. The Michigan State Police leads this task force here. Grant funding comes through there, and we partner with different local assets for local police agencies, sheriff's departments, prosecutors' offices, the Michigan Attorney General's office. Anybody who wants to join the task force, you can reach out to me or to one of us at our cyber initiative here, and we'll be more than happy to entertain any partnerships or affiliations. It just has to make a right fit for us. There's got to be ROI on both sides. But that is what we're connected with the grant funding from the federal government, and that's 61 coordinated task forces across the country that we're partnered with. So you're doing a really good job of tackling this problem of children being exploited online, and that's kind of our purview through this. Through the mission, through the Department of Justice, OJJDP, the mission has 4 main tenets that we address. The proactive casework is what my investigators work on mostly. We're actively trying to hunt down these threats, the persons that are online targeting children for these exploitative type crimes, and all the really dark part or dark piece of our work that's done by my investigators and myself. Also, we do digital forensics. Every agency in our state can bring local sheriff, whatever it is, they can, counties, they can bring computers, cell phones, anything that has a nexus to digital evidence, they can bring to our labs, and our very, very talented analysts will go through, look at all that, prepare reports, and testify in cases on any type of crime. So this could be anything, not just ICAC work. Training and instruction is another purview of the mission. Training and instruction is provided to local partnerships and prosecutors. In this slide here, there's a picture. We're presenting digital evidence overview, seizure and technique methodologies to the Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and these are cadets who are training to become police officers. So, but we provide that training and instruction across the board for all facets of law enforcement. And then this part, outreach and community engagement, that's where Miss Amanda Lehman's specialty is, and that's what we're involved in today, trying to reach out to stakeholders, parents, and caregivers, and children alike through different initiatives and different outreach opportunities. This picture that's here, we're actually on the walkway at the K-Wing Stadium. So we're actually handing out some materials and engaging with parents and children and caregivers, talking about internet safety and promoting that message. So we'll get on with the actual presentation everybody got here today concerning let me talk about this too, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This is one of our main partnerships that we have. The National Center for Missing and Exploiting Children they're the clearinghouse for all of the cyber tips that come in. These can come in from electronic service providers, from like Google, Yahoo, Comcast, all these different things, and anything that they see where there's potentially a harm or exploitation of a child occurring, they will generate a cyber tip, and then they disseminate it through one of these 61 coordinated task forces throughout the country. We had we're just overwhelmed with the tips. I have myself and 2 investigators in my office, and right now it says 2,300 cyber tips to date for the Michigan ICAC task force alone. So we're very busy trying to triage those and get those all sorted through and make sure we address them. We do work with our local partnerships to address some of those tips too, but NCMEC is just a powerhouse of a resource for us. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the tasks or some of the things that they have. They have tons of resources and free support for families and exploited children, lots of guides, PDFs, statistics, and all kinds of good tips and information for parents out there. They also run the NetSmart site, and the NetSmart site has lots of presentation materials and slides and videos and things for parents and educators and stakeholders also. Right there, I just grabbed a screenshot of their website, and under the first banner there is topics under cyberbullying, online enticement. Everybody can read that. And then they have a PDF that you can download, Parents Guide to Smartphone Safety. The other one is the social media tips, sextortion and sexting, social media. There's tons of videos, tons of resources, tons of things for parents to grab. The link is there. I see Amanda's putting those links into the chat for me. I appreciate that. And you can go there and educate yourself. Part of this presentation and part of our outreach mission is to arm you with the tools to do your own research, to figure out, your own opinion or your own judgment about that app or that website or that game, to figure out if you think it's a good fit for your child. Raising kids on all these different parenting planes, it's hard to say, what one size fits all doesn't work, right? And a lot of us are having kids in the household who are on different parenting planes. So we have the preteen who gets a phone or gets a smartphone and wants to start interacting with some apps. Well, of course, the younger kids want to see that and mimic that behavior and be part of that because it looks fun. And it's very hard to gauge all of that and guide those kids through that. So here is the first slide, I should say, of raising kids in a digital world. A lot of that was background and a lot of good information there for you. The one thing about this entire presentation I want to get across to everybody is no parent, nobody is getting this right 100% of the time. There's no parent that gets it right 100% of the time with every kid that they're raising. And this is the first time in the history of humanity that we're raising kids in a digital age. There's lots of people who are studied, who have PhDs behind their name, who have done a lot of research about screen time, about aspects of violent video games or the addiction that occurs with kids when they get that notification, that ding of their phone. There's a dopamine response and the kids get excited and there's a reward system associated with it. For me, when my phone dings, that means somebody needs me for a work-related issue. So it kind of has the opposite effect for me. But we know that that's there by design. The colors, the sights, the sounds, the notification alerts. those are there to elicit a response and to be, to kind of get your kids engaged with that device and almost become addicted to it. I'm not any of those PhD type people that I mentioned before, but I have a lot of experience in talking to groups, talking to kids. We unfortunately get to see behind the veil here in the lab, all the damage that gets done, all the things that kids are doing wrong sometimes on the phone. I will say that those are small percentages of the population. Most people are doing it right. Most kids are getting it right, but they definitely need our guiding hand, and they need our instruction. They need our, demonstration through intelligent example. We're going through this all together right now in the pandemic, and nowhere has technology become more a part of our life than now, right? And we don't think that genie's ever really going to probably go back in the bottle completely. We're using it for, connectivity to work and school, telehealth, virtual meetings, and everything else. There's a lot of parents that come, to us, and this is one of the tenets that we were talking to Lisa prior to even putting this together. We were just kind of spitballing about ideas for a presentation. And I think one thing that struck a chord with her was a lot of parents come to us and say, it's really hard being a parent in this digital age, and there's 3 million apps, I think, on the Google Play Store, and just about, or maybe 4 million, almost 3 million on the Apple Play Store. There's no way anybody's going to know everything about every app or every facet or tenet of technology. But those parents who are complaining that they have it so hard, I would posit that the kids have it really hard too. This is the most anxious our children have ever been in the history of our humanity, with these devices in their hands and their connectivity. They're on all the time. They are connected all the time. It's really hard to be a kid. They've got messages being pushed in front of them. They've got, the peer pressure and the competition and, the fear of missing out and all those things. When I was a kid growing up, I would go to school for the day. I would have that 6 to 7 hours of time with my friends and interaction, where I maybe had to put up that armor and be, a little tougher or a little less vulnerable than I would be, when it was just me at home with my family. As soon as I set foot off that bus, I would get relief. I would be free of that pressure, and I would not have any of that peer pressure on me. Sorry. I think I zoomed in on that. I'm going to pull that out. Sorry about that. But that doesn't occur anymore. These kids don't get a summer break to experience growth in their identity, to have that development away from all that peer influence. They're on all the time, and it's just really stressful for them. And I don't have statistics to back up any of the higher levels of anxiety or anything, but I think that everybody can agree that technology has brought this into the fold for children and adults alike. We're constantly looking at our phone. We're picking up our phone without any notifications being sent to us, just to see if there's something that maybe we missed out, or if one of our posts got a like. So it's just a different time. And if anybody says they have all the answers, I would posit that we're still kind of learning and trying to figure it out. One of the things I want to stress is that the tech time, or the time that the kids are spending on their devices, we have to rethink some of that and reframe it a little bit about how they're spending their time on the tech. If they're connecting with friends or doing things that are creative, rather than just blanketing everything with they're always on their device, they're using their device. How are they using their device? It is very important for them to connect with friends, activity groups, sports, teammates, coaches, for education or special interests, and those social connections. This is the first time in history where we've been able to take a kid who maybe had a special interest in comic books, say, or something, and not just have to wait for that, comic, gathering or Comic-Con event to go and connect with like-minded people like themselves. They can find some of those groups online now and connect with those people, and that's a very positive thing. That's a positive normative behavior. So we don't want to just think about them being on their device all the time, and then that's automatically a negative thing. We have to trust your child, trust and respect their privacy. Pre-pandemic, these kids were spending 6 to 7 hours a day away from you, away from parents looking over their shoulder or listening in on conversations. I think that that's a very, very important part of their development. They need those interactions and outlets to kind of help process their stress. They can't really do that or accomplish that if we're constantly monitoring every interaction or watching over their shoulder or listening in. Most of the kids are doing the right things on technology. We just want to reinforce them that normative positive behavior and remind them that they can always come to you with any questions or concerns. But they do have to have some flexibility there and be able to reach some of these social outlets that they need to develop. From the parenting perspective, I would say a word of advice would be to lead by an intelligent example. A lot of these presentations we do where it's like children and parents, where that's the mixed group, I'll ask a lot of the kids, how often or how much time do your parents spend on their devices? And a lot of the times the kids say that the mom or the dad is on their device way more than they are, that they'll set a rule or they'll set a threshold or a boundary, but that doesn't prevent mom or dad from being on their device. Maybe there's no devices at dinner. However, dad's checking his email or mom's looking at social media. So, just lead by that example, try to show them the intelligent way to do it. And we want to make sure we're giving them all the positive stuff that happens when you're interacting with work and interpersonal relationships. But if we're cyber slacking on there and we're telling them not to do it, it's a little bit hypocritical. So reining in the time for the kids, it is hard. I know that's hard. It's hard for my house too. Flexibility is the key. And, maybe set up, some of the device-free dinners, trying to pull them in, no devices an hour before bed, so those things. And really it gives them a chance to kind of have a time to settle their brain down a little bit too. And, make time for that communication and that stuff. So we're going to go through the laws. I think that most or the majority of parents I talk to, they feel like the electronic service providers, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, their primary concern is not the safety of your children. Their primary concern is to get you addicted to their platform and to use it and expand your social network and connect with people using their platform. The COPA law was written kind of archaic back in the 90s, where they said, okay, electronic service providers cannot collect data for persons under 13 years of age. The real key important part of that is they just make the app 13 and above, and then there's just this little challenge to say, oh yeah, I'm older than 13, let me through. That's the only gateway there. That's the only gateway that exists for pornography sites, alcohol sites, this really silly, archaic age verification. One of the stakeholders I'll talk about in a little while through Protect Young Eyes, Chris McKenna, he's here in Michigan. He's advocated for smart device rollout. So when you go to pick up a phone at Verizon or AT&T and they say, well, who will the phone be for? It's going to be for my preteen or for, my 10-year-old. And he's saying, why wouldn't we just make the companies nerf that device or make it safe for a kid so they can't even access any content? It would be kind of like a firmware thing, or it'd be pre-installed on the device, so those things can't happen on that device if they're under 13. And of course,
Hey, Gerald,
that would create more work for the companies. Yes.
sorry, the slide is not populating for view.
No, I know. I'm not there yet on the protecting guys. But I'm just talking about this safety issue. There's just way more that the companies could do to protect children, and they're not interested in that. The old adage here is, if the application of the service is free, you are the product. They are selling your data. They're selling your data to data brokers and putting direct marketing ads on your device when you log in and you do that. Right now, Facebook is building an Instagram for kids under the age of 13. They are not netting all of the market, and they want all of the market. So they're not looking out for your kids. That was the whole underlying theme of that slide. Sorry, Amanda. Thank you, though. I appreciate you keeping me on track. So, and then here we're talking about awareness and engagement. I talk to a lot of parents about this, and there are ways that you have to engage with your children. You're not going to understand. You're not going to get it all the ways that they interact and use technology. They use technology differently than you do. They are on gaming platforms, social media platforms. The one thing you can do, though, is engage with them and ask them what it is that they like about that application. Why do you go onto YouTube and watch another person play video games? When you own that video game, you could be playing it yourself. And if you understand what they're getting from it, what are they gleaning from that content, and maybe that engagement helps you to understand why they're on their device or what they're doing. So when you ask them what are they up to, and they can have an intelligent conversation with you back. This last spring break, me and my son were driving down to Georgia to do some hiking on the Appalachian Trail, and he kept playing the same audio over and over and over. He's watching a video. My eyes are on the road. I can't see the video, but I hear this audio. And I'm like, what? Dude, you've listened to that 40 times. Why do you keep watching the same thing over and over and over? And he's just shaking his head like, you don't understand. And I said, well, try to explain it to me. Well, he's watching a different series of TikTok videos that are all set to the same audio clip. And when we actually had downtime and we stopped driving, I started like watching these videos, and they're hilarious. They're really funny. But the kid was driving me crazy playing this over and over and over. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get what you're doing over there. So those kind of things, I've watched him play Fortnite. I've watched him play Minecraft. My son is 15. I don't understand Minecraft still to this day. But he was addicted to that for a little while and loved it. And there was really nothing negative about it. I just didn't understand it. And even after watching him for a while, I still didn't understand it. But you're trying to strengthen that communication and understanding. The one pitfall I would put out there when I'm presenting or I'm telling other people how to present to some of these stakeholder groups, absolutely do not dilute their interests. Do not discount or dilute it. You don't want to shut them down and make them feel like, their thing that they find interesting is not worth their time or it's a waste of time. I've had presenters go out and talk about Facebook safety or Instagram safety to parents, and they start their presentation by saying, me personally, I don't even have any of this stuff. I don't get on that garbage. I don't do that. Well, you've just turned off half of the audience because they all are invested and they all do feel that way. So when you're engaging with your children, you got to make sure you're not diluting things that are important to them. So mistakes will be made. Absolutely. Absolutely. No parent's getting this right 100% of the time. The kids are, they know way more about technology than you will, especially the way that they engage with technology. What you know more about is safety. Internet safety isn't that much different from the safety that we apply to other things. We have to teach our children not to put metal in the microwave. We have to teach them that the stove is hot or that the grill outside is hot. We're doing all those things to prevent harms. We're doing those things to prevent our children from getting into an unsafe situation where they could get hurt. And I see a lot of parents give their kid or a child a smartphone and say, good luck. Here's the phone, start doing whatever you want to do on it. Now, that is a digital superhighway, and one of the fears we have is that they're going to get into one of these harmful scenarios where they're giving away information about themselves, and we haven't really taught them all the ways that we can set up some boundaries or safeguards from doing that stuff. So when you start thinking about how they engage with technology and they're getting a smartphone or they're going online on a computer to look things up, know that they're probably going to make mistakes. I always equate it back to giving them the keys to the car, and before I would unleash my child onto the highway unsupervised, I want to give them every piece of advice that I can think of about when you approach this intersection, there's a bush over here and you won't be able to see over that hill. You might want to nudge out just a little bit further than the stop sign to take a look. And I'm doing that. I'm giving that information so that they don't get into a scenario where they are harmed in that traffic collision. Well, we don't want them to be harmed or, have any harms come their way while they're in the digital superhighway either. So the more you can lead by intelligent example, give them some of the information that you know about safety, teaching them to protect their name, identity, and reputation, and then also having a plan to deal with them when they come to you about unwanted contact or something that makes them uncomfortable online. We stopped the public safety announcements a long time ago about stranger danger because we know that not all strangers are dangerous. They may have to talk or interact with persons online that we wouldn't qualify in the real world as friends. If this person showed up to the front door and said, "Hey, what's up?" We'd like, "Who are you?" I'm Jim, 36 from Minecraft. So they do have these interactions with people through the social media and gaming and friends of friends and things like that. And not all those people are dangerous or predatory. There's not all this predation happening there in technology like we think. We do see a lot of it. We do see that kids can get into some risky or inappropriate behaviors or conversations. We need to start talking to them as soon as they're getting online. And that could be a young age too. One of the shock values was, at what age would you start talking to your children about pornography? And the response should be anytime that they're on the internet with a device. So if they're surfing the iPad, we don't have to give it to them in such a brash, damaging way to talk about pornography in that way, but it's about what would you do if you came across something that made you feel uncomfortable? You could come to any one of us, or you could come to grandma or grandpa, wherever they're at, the babysitter, and you could let them know. Somebody said something that made me feel uncomfortable. I'm not exactly sure how to deal with it. And having those plans and reinforcing those plans really helps the kids, because outside of that, they don't have a plan and they don't have the social maturity always to deal with it. And I don't want to get too dark on all this presentation. It's a lunch and learn after all, but we do see some kids get into some self-harm or suicide issues due to sending a sext or sending a, or even the real dangerous peer cyberbullying that happens. We've had a couple of those incidents where the kids are getting harassed or villainized by kids their own age. And those kids are a little meaner and more predatory than even, say, some of our thoughts let us wonder about the pedophiles who are online stalking children. So there are some websites here, and that's a resource about, how many kids, and they did a study, have had something sent their way that they maybe didn't even ask for. That's going to happen. That is going to happen to your children. It's happened to my kids, and you have to have a plan for dealing with it. That cyber civil rights website that Amanda's put in the chat, it's got some guides or guidelines for online content removal. It's usually like, what do we do now? What can we do now? The toothpaste is out of the tube. It's not going back in. My biggest piece of advice to any parent is don't panic. If the safety of the child, the physical safety of the child right now in this moment is secured, everything else we can take care of and, go along these baby steps, follow these guidelines, report it to police, whatever you have to do. But you couldn't stomach the idea of your child sitting there suffering in silence and failing in silence because they got themselves caught up in one of these scenarios and they don't know what to do and they don't know how to come to you. You have to communicate and engage with your child. A lot of these kids just lack the social maturity to solve problems. And then next slide here, we get these same types of questions generally from parents at different meetings. Should I install spyware? That's a really, really slippery slope, and I'm not going to say yes or no. The other thing you notice through this whole presentation is I'm not here to villainize any one application or platform. The only thing a child needs to do to be harassed, cyberbullied, or exploited by a predator is a phone with a call function or a texting functionality. The apps themselves aren't inherently bad. They're not there to encourage evil or anything like that. It's how the child interacts with people in that application or in that platform. Some parents want to spy on every single communication, every phone call. They want to listen over the shoulder of the child. I would go back to the other part where the kids would normally spend a 6 to 7 hour day in school with their peers, and they would open up with their peers, and that's a good way to, I think, to unleash that stress or let that stress out and maybe frame it appropriately. When I grew up, we had a house phone. We didn't have cell phones. I didn't have a chatting app or AOL or IMs or anything like that. But I know as a teenager, I spent hours on the phone talking to people, girlfriends or even friends, and that's how we communicated. And then I knew lots of friends who had private lines. They had their own line installed in their bedroom that was separate from the parents because, like, this is ridiculous. You spend the whole time on the phone. You're getting your own line. Or call waiting. That was a big deal when I grew up. And that's because I needed to connect with people. I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to maybe unload a little bit of my day. I didn't want to share that with my parents. I wanted to share it with my peer groups. So, and that is healthy. I think that's natural and it's normal. If they think they can't do that without you looking over their shoulder or hearing it all the time, they can't accomplish that. And they're going to be monitored to a point. Our experience shows that if there's a will, there's a way. They will go to a friend's house and use their devices. They will get fake accounts. They will make up, Finsta accounts or fake Instagram accounts. So the parents say, I want your password and login. I want to be able to log into your Instagram at any time and monitor all your behavior at any time I want to. And they say, okay, that's fine. They'll set up a secondary account. That secondary account might not even be on their device. It might be on their friend's device. And that's how they're doing a lot of the things that they don't want you to know about. So there's a lot of ways kids can get around that. What age should I allow my child a smartphone or social media? That's going to be up to the kid. I would say that anybody who's raised children on different parenting planes, different ages, or even genders, there were different ages where they might have left one child alone at home while they ran an errand or went out on a date night. And then there's another age for the other child. So each kid kind of comes, not prepackaged with the same thresholds, but they might be ready to drive the day they turn 16. Some kids might not be ready to go for another year or two beyond that. Same thing with social media. Some kids can't handle that responsibility. They've not earned the trust to get to that point yet where they can have a smartphone or social media. It's really dependent on the child and the parent and that relationship, and a lot of communication has to happen between those two things, and there is no threshold I can give you about that. And then how can I educate myself on different games and apps and all that? I'm going to point you to a couple websites here. There are just tons of resources out there for you to look at, but this is one of my favorite ones. This is, again, protectyoungeyes.com. And this is Chris McKenna. He's from the Grand Rapids area. A friend of mine, we've co-presented together. A lot of his messages are along the same lines as my message today. He is just an amazing resource. He has some YouTubes up where he's testified before Congress about internet safety and how some of these apps are dangerous, and where he's demanding legislation be enacted to change the way that these things are occurring in our society and how they're harming our kids. Very informative website with resources about how to go and set up parental controls on literally any device, an Android, an Apple device, a Chromebook, and he'll walk you through all those steps. He'll also do application reviews, so he'll go through and tell you why he thinks a certain app might be riskier than others. His recommendation on applications, if a child comes to you and says, I want to have Snapchat, and they explain to you, and some kids will give you, my daughter created a PowerPoint once about why she wanted a puppy. And I thought that was a really, good initiative on her part. And I sat through the whole thing and listened, and, we made some informative decisions about that. But some kids will beg you and plead with you. And if they make the case and you say, well, I'll evaluate it. I'll evaluate the necessity for that. I would recommend you download that application and you interact with it for a period of about 7 days. And then you just click around and see what it's all about, see what it does, maybe read some tutorials from Chris or somebody else and find out where the pitfalls are, and then maybe have a really educated conversation about yes or no, or maybe so with your child about that application. But he'll tell you why they think that's a good app or a bad app. The other thing you can do is you can subscribe to his blog. It hits you maybe once a month with just one email to say, hey, there's more information out here that we put together if you're interested in it. You go back through, there's archives of his blogs, and it's extremely informative. They do a really good job, and they are working to protect our children. So through this, these are some of the webinars that are upcoming on his website. These are all free. These are parent webinars to go through and listen to him talk or his team talk about what they feel about these different topics or issues or applications. So it's really good. They're really clicked in. They've got a really good job, and they're homegrown right here in Michigan. So I like that. Common Sense Media is another one that's been around for a long time. Again, these are just screenshots of some of the different things that these people do. Different areas it breaks up from preschoolers, little kids, big kids, all that stuff. NetSmarts kind of does that too. Back when we were talking about NCMEC, NetSmarts has presentation, videos, tutorials, information broken into these different age groups too. Down here is talking about browse thousands of age-based reviews, movies, TV shows, books, apps, and it'll tell you why they think that that's maybe not appropriate for a certain age range. You can type in an application and it'll tell you some of the pitfalls and why they think it's dangerous. And lots of great information on there too and resources. Social Safety Patrol, I've been teaching off their platform for a long time. They are up to date on different things. You can request an app to be reviewed by them. If it's a brand new app on the market that nobody's talked about, you type in where I have it highlighted down here for search. You can type in what you're looking for, WhatsApp, Snapchat, Kick, Facebook, Facebook Messenger, and then it'll bring up their review. This is not a state police site. This is Social Safety Patrol, their review of that application of why they think that's not an appropriate app or why they think that's a higher risk application. So these are areas where you can go through and do your own research and evaluate, is this a good fit for my child or for our family or whatever it is. And some of them, they're saying, yeah, that's fine. Pokemon Go, that's a great app. They get them out, exercise, all that stuff. So it's not all negative. They'll do a lot of positive stuff too. Here are two books that were authored by the founder of Common Sense Media. I've kind of skimmed these books. I haven't read every book out there. There are lots of book recommendations on Protect Young Eyes also, and Chris McKenna's put together a really good area for book review and hardware review for smart routers for families to protect kids and traffic. These are a couple other great books that I like. Raising Humans in a Digital World is a really good, straightforward book. And then Screenwise is good too. Just talking about, raising happy, healthy, well-adjusted kids in a digital world. And it's not a, cut all technology out of their lives diet. She's really advocating a lot of the, how do they focus their time on technology? Is it spent connecting with friends, doing creative things, and maybe some of those outlets and those things are healthy, and that's actually something that's going to be a positive thing for your child. So we're coming up on 12:10. I want to make sure I left a little bit of time. I think this Lunch and Learn, at least it was for 12:30 we were going to end, but I want to make sure that we had enough time here to answer any questions if anybody had any for me.
There is one in the chat, Gerald, from Lisa.
Okay.
She wants to know how you know if an app has a call or a text feature.
Yeah, so a lot of the apps are designed for the same exact type of thing. They're trying to market it so that their app might do something a little bit different or unique, and that's how they try and grab that market share away from the other apps. So Snapchat's features with the filters and the puppy dog ears, and that has video chatting or video calls, or you can make a regular phone call. And you'd have to review that app through either Chris's website, Social Safety Patrol, something app, or my other recommendation, download it. Download that app. Me and my partners in the ICAC mission, I constantly tell them, hey, download, whatever it is, WhatsApp. I want to test something real quick. And they're like, okay, great. So then I'll go through and I'm testing the functionality and the different ways that you can interact with it. I would recommend parents to go through and do that same thing with the apps so that they understand how it works and they understand where something could be wrong. One of the presentations I gave to some Department of Health and Human Services workers was about the location stuff on apps. So Snapchat has a Snap app feature, and if I have my location settings activated, then I am broadcasting my avatar, my name, or whatever my Snapchat username is, and my location to people. When we were driving down to Georgia, I mentioned my son. He was constantly searching his Snap map and seeing his friends in cars, their parents' cars, driving to Florida or Alabama or wherever they were going for spring break. And he says, oh, yeah, those guys are somewhere here in Tennessee right now or Kentucky. And so, those things are being broadcasted. Instagram is broadcasting your location. If I look at Instagram and use a hashtag for something, I can start seeing people at a festival site, at a carnival, at an event, at a fair, and start seeing all those users who are there interacting. And then I can start developing some information about that person or user. So that's a little more than what she asked, but that's one area that they should be concerned about. So any other questions popping out?
Yeah, thank you for answering that,
sorry.
Gerald.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything for Detective Yott for today? Everyone that called in too, if you would like to
This is Bill Jerome. I got a question.
go ahead, Bill.
Hey, any experience with Roblox? Because my kids will not get off that app.
Yeah, go to Social Safety Patrol and go to Chris McKenna's website. He does a review on Roblox and talks about that and talks about how he evaluates it. We don't villainize or demonize any specific application. That's not really in our purview. And I wouldn't go online and say this app is bad. The way that they make money on those ads or is ad driven. So if I was to say don't do this app or don't do this thing, my thing would be to direct you to a site that does the review of those and gives you very good actionable intelligence about how you want to make a decision about your child interacting with that. So that's the best I can give you for that. Yeah, hopefully the resources, like you said, Christy, are there to serve as a, somewhere to start, a starting block for you to figure it out. And then, of course, engage with your child and find out what it is they like about that. Those apps and those games sometimes drive me crazy, and I'm not really sure what the interest is, but there's something that's triggering in their brain and their dopamine to say, I need to be here and I need to do this for 2 hours a day or something. So.
Awesome. Well, we so appreciate it. Anyone who's on the phone call today and wants to email us at mwrbattlecreek@dla.com so we know that you were on today and who was on, because we can't track it with just your phone number. And then if anyone needs a copy of this presentation, they can go to mwrbattlecreek.com, or if they would like to share it, they certainly can do that as well. You can share it with others because this will be recorded and downloaded on that page. Any other questions for Detective Yott?
And again, my email and phone number is there. If anybody wants to talk offline, that is a very common thing too. I always get people walk up after a presentation and want to ask their question in a one-off format, and that's fine too. And I appreciate everybody's attention. And if anybody has anything else, I'll stay online for a few more minutes here. I think we'll leave the session open, Lisa. And then, other than that, I really appreciate everybody's time and clicking in today.